What's up, folks? Welcome to the Combat Fighting channel. My name is Han, and in this video we're doing a fight interview with Elle Harward. This is in promotion to an upcoming fight, which is going to be February 15th in Seattle, Washington. Elle stepped in to fill in for Melissa, I believe, for a fight with Bety Olson. Now, it's going to be a banger of a fight. I know that Bety has been fighting for a while now. She's been training hard. She's done a big transformation to herself in the past 3 or 4 years. She's a Muay Thai mom, and she lives and breathes it, right? You are going to fight her for the first time, I believe?
Yes.
All right. So, just to recap, it's going to be, the location is going to be at Combat Arts Academy, and it's going to be, doors open at 3 p.m., February 15th, okay? You can still get tickets now. It will be broadcasted live. If you go on the Legendary Fight Promotions website, you can see the links to see it live, okay? But for now, let's get to know each other. So Elle, this is the first time we're really talking, apart from when we talked on the mic setup, right?
Yep.
So can you tell me a bit about where you're located and how long you've done fighting, if it's not just Muay Thai?
I'm in Spokane Valley, Washington. I train at Hominidai Fitness and Martial Arts, and I've been training for about 3.5 years.
So, before the 3.5 years, did you do any other sports, or was it just like fitness and stuff?
Yes, I actually grew up. My mom has her master's degree in elementary PE.
Okay.
And so I know. So she made sure we were always doing something all through school. I also have the advantage of being 6'1". So whether or not I was talented, I always made the basketball teams and the volleyball teams. I did manage to get some talent, and I played volleyball for the first 2 years of college. I ended up retiring out of that early because I didn't know it at the time, but I have a health condition called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome that causes... It's a connective tissue disorder, so I get injured quite easily compared to other people. So after that, I went to recreational sports, recreational volleyball for the most part. Ended up with shoulder issues from that, and transitioned from there into Muay Thai when I saw my friend's first fight.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
So let's talk about the volleyball stuff.
Yeah.
I did a lot of volleyball too. I'm the opposite of you. I'm 5'6". I did volleyball quite a bit when I was young. I did really well. Won some championships and all that stuff. I was captain. But then when I got to university, I didn't make the height requirement because I'm 5'6" and 5'8" is the minimum. And I was like, oh darn, I guess this is not for me. So I quit at that point. I played recreationally, but at that point I just stopped. I did other stuff. I picked up boxing for a bit after that. It was fun.
Hey,
but
gotta work different muscles, right?
Yes. So what I want to ask you is, volleyball isn't. You said you had like an injury type. What was it called again? The condition?
I have a chronic health condition, so it's
what's
called
the name
Ehlers-Danlos syndrome.
Danlos. Okay.
Ehlers-Danlos. EDS for short.
Okay. So for volleyball, it's not exactly a fighting sport. The ball hits you, but you're not gonna bruise like a baseball bat hitting you or a baseball.
Right.
Unless it gets you square in the nose and you faint or something like that. You can.
I liked to hit other people in the nose.
Yes.
I wasn't the one getting hit in the nose.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not exactly a contact sport, you know what I mean?
Right.
So during that time, you didn't know you had this condition, or did you know?
Correct.
Okay.
Nope, I did not know.
So
all I knew, I was in a lot of pain. I was in the trainer's office 30 to 60 minutes before every practice, 30 to 60 minutes after every practice, trying to warm up and cool down, and just hurting. Yeah.
Because I know, so in volleyball, I mean, you might sprain some legs, ankles. That's common, and you get like the dead cells on your hand if you don't play for a while. Like if you take a break for like 9 months or whatever, you're gonna get like red marks every single time.
Yeah.
Is that similar?
Yeah. So it's not from the contact. I was a middle hitter.
Okay.
And so for me, it was, I would go up to strike every time the ball went to the setter, unless it was a really terrible pass, right? And I would hit those quick ones. So I would either hit the ball or I would draw in the blockers and she'd send it, right? Mm-hmm. Either way. But I was jumping and swinging every single time, along with playing the net, right? Mm-hmm. Side to side, going up for the blocks, all across the net. And so that it's that high impact over and over, plus the swinging that I was just doing over and over and over. Started getting issues with my knees and my hips and my back and my shoulder.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. So did you discover this after fighting or before fighting?
After.
After, okay. So
yeah, it was a really interesting discovery. I actually so Muay Thai has actually helped with it a lot. I've almost never been injured from someone striking me. It's always been me doing something. So to give a little context here, so my collagen, my DNA recipe for collagen is incorrect. So my body builds it the wrong way. The collagen is too stretchy, like a worn out rubber band that you've stretched too many times, mm-hmm. and it won't go back. So I'm hypermobile. And I would just dislocate things, doing nothing, or sprain things doing nothing. Like I'd bend to pick up a toy off the floor and I'd sprain a hip flexor and throw out my back. Mm-hmm. Or I would, I sprained my elbow driving the car once. When I first started Muay Thai, I sprained everything right off the bat. I kicked a bag once and my foot dislocated and then relocated, just popped off and popped back in.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so finding it, I went to the ortho about that time when I was starting Muay Thai, and I had sprained my wrist and I had sprained my ankle and I had torn something, and I went in and just asked him, I said, can I get a punch card, like 9 visits, get the 10th free, kind of a thing, and he was like, oh, maybe you have this condition. And so we kind of dove down that rabbit hole, and they have you do this. He had me do a hypermobility assessment right there, and I passed with flying colors. And so learning more about that has been super helpful. I started training in an alignment strength-based yoga, therapeutic yoga specifically. The universe led me to this therapeutic yoga instructor who's like one of the best in the nation, who just happens to live right by me. Mm-hmm. Became a yoga teacher actually, so I could pass what my knowledge on to other hypermobile people, and also just fighters to try to prolong their careers, you know. And now I do strength training, I do physical therapy every night for 1 to 3 hours probably. PT weekly, Muay Thai 5 times a week, yoga once a week, teach yoga once a week. Mm-hmm. Just all this stuff that I do to really hold my body strong, build those muscles and bring everything into an alignment. And I live almost a pain-free life now. I'm stronger than I've ever been. And I get to pass that on to other people. A lot of people with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome are wheelchair bound. Mm-hmm. Or they can walk very short distances. It also affects every other body system because collagen is your glue. It affects your cardiovascular, it affects your digestion, it affects everything. And so there's other health conditions that the EDS causes. And so I have another one called POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, which is, when I stand up, because my veins don't compress because of the collagen disorder the way they're supposed to when I stand, the blood drops out of my brain and into my legs. And so I'll get lightheaded, dizzy. I only very rarely pass out. But I found out about this because of the EDS diagnosis. It's still something, it causes extreme exercise intolerance, which explains why it always took me longer than my teammates to get into shape, all growing up. And it's still something that affects me every day. But making myself, the days that I don't want to go, I know that I have to go to the gym. Mm-hmm. Because that exercise helps to treat what I have going on, right? And I have to lift. I have to stay strong. And so many people, a big part of why I'm so excited about doing this interview is because there are so many people out there with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and with POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia, who don't believe that they can work out, who don't believe that they could ever be pain-free. I know that, like, when people look at me as a fighter, I'm 6'1", right? And so I think they automatically assume we have a David and Goliath situation happening, right? Which is totally understandable. But I have worked through, regardless of the outcome of this fight, my ability to be here, to be having this interview for a title fight in my late 30s, in a pain-free body, in the best cardiovascular condition I've ever been in. I just want to spread that awareness that it's even possible.
That's amazing. One of the things I want to drill into is, what was a specific event, or how did you, when someone has a sickness or a disorder in their body, they don't know until a certain thing happens. So people that don't know they have EDS, how would you discover that? How did you discover that? The trigger that happened?
For me, I discovered it because of that orthopedic doctor.
Oh,
he,
okay.
I made that joke to him, about how often I was in his office. But there's some really cool research coming out about neurodivergency. I'll try not to get down too much of a tangent on this. But how that's showing up differently in men and women and in boys and girls. They're discovering that this hypermobility disorder, which is, EDS is considered a hypermobility spectrum disorder. It's one of a few different ones that's out there.
Okay.
Is the physical manifestation of neurodivergency, how it manifests in the body. I'm also a mother. You mentioned earlier that my opponent is a Muay Thai mom. I have two sons who are both autistic, one on the higher functioning end and one on the low functioning end. And so the current research that's coming out right now is showing that in boys and in men, we're seeing more of the neurological symptoms. The girls, they've got a little more protection against that because of the Y chromosome is really just an X chromosome with a leg missing, right? Okay. So that missing bit kind of counterbalances the neurological effects. However, women, when they hit puberty, they get estrogen, progesterone, things that increase flexibility, right? So that their bodies can change to be able to give birth. Whereas men get testosterone, which helps to grow muscle and tighten things down. So they don't see the hypermobility like the women do. And the women don't get the same neurological effects as the men. And I say all this to answer your question, how can people know that they have it? If you have neurodivergency in your family is one of the big things. The women in families with neurodivergency, if they're hypermobile, if they get the elbows that hyperextend, if their knees hyperextend when they are standing, right? If they're bending slightly backwards, they do a test called the Bety scale. Can you touch? Sorry, I can't see myself in this camera, but if you can touch your thumb to your forearm, if your pinky can bend back 90 degrees, yeah, see?
I can't do that, no.
Yeah, and that's not a muscle flexibility, that's connective tissue flexibility right there. Okay. And so there's a few different things. I would recommend if you notice that you're hypermobile or you have a lot of that pain, bring it up to your doctor. They're discovering that it's actually much more common than they had anticipated. So, and it's all new, and there's some new treatments that they're starting to realize there's no cure for it. It's all lifestyle changes. That and the POTS is honestly more debilitating to me at this point, where I've built the muscle structure and strength for the Ehlers-Danlos. But lifestyle changes, eating clean, staying well hydrated with electrolytes. There's a device you can wear on your neck that helps to compress the veins so the blood stays, wearing compression leggings and socks. I had to get special permission for this upcoming fight to be able to wear compression on my legs, things like that. So
I do want to ask one more question about that. You said that you have to strengthen your body to kind of fight the effects of it, right? Of EDS.
Yes.
So in terms of your body, for anyone else that has this condition and might want some advice on it, what kind of conditioning or where in the body or exercises help the best?
Oh man. Oh, that is such a wormhole. It depends on where your starting point is, right?
Okay.
I had the advantage of having parents who made me be fit as a child. And so I think that my starting point was a little higher. A lot of families, they have parents who are also struggling with this just because it's a genetic condition. And so exercise is maybe not a big part of their like upbringing to start with. And so I would recommend starting small and just showing up. I like to tell people, if you're going to show up and just do 2 minutes of exercise and then go home, awesome.
Yeah.
Because 2 minutes, 365 days of the year is
you can do it.
You know what I mean?
It's good.
700 minutes, which is a whole lot more than zero.
Yeah.
There are protocols out there for exercising with POTS if you pass out easily when you stand up. I believe it's called the Muldowney protocol, where it starts out in bed. Exercises you're doing vertical. Pilates is reformer Pilates, where lying flat. I don't know if you're very familiar with Pilates, but reformers are things you lie down on and do exercises from there. And it's all about alignment, and you're not vertical, you're horizontal. And so that's kind of considered the gold standard for treating the EDS as far as the building strength and also not triggering the POTS as much. It triggers exercise intolerance, and that's something you just have to fight through. And the more you fight through it, the better. You can almost condition it like it's another muscle in your body. It's hard because the blood dumps out of your brain. Your body's telling you, go lie down right now. Like, you have to fight every instinct in your body to stay there and keep pushing through in that moment. But you can condition it. So I personally just think Pilates is boring. so I don't do it. I find that the alignment strength through the specific alignment-based yoga, which actually took the alignment principles from Pilates and brought them into yoga, but it's not a very well-known type of yoga right now. And it's called Anusara yoga. And it's newer in the yoga world. So normally yoga I would not recommend for hypermobile people unless it is alignment-based, strength-based.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so Pilates is a good one. And yeah,
Yes.
like when you said earlier, like working out 2 minutes a day, I mean, you're not going to be like world champion, but you're going to be decent. When I had my kids, my schedule got really screwed up. I got 3 kids, and I actually maintained decent fitness with 5 to 10 minutes of working out.
Yep.
Hard. Like I would do chin up. I would take a chin up. I only did chin up stuff, and I did it 5 minutes a day, like just really intense.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, I'm pretty fit at that time. I was more fit then than I am now. So a lot can happen in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I had a friend who's 40 pounds.
Yeah, and another thing I tell people too is, and this kind of goes against the fighter mentality a little bit. I do push back against some of that mentality stuff because I grew up in the world of athleticism, in college athletics, of like push, go, you know, which, to be fair, works when you're 18 to 22 years old playing college sports. Get your body still heals by itself, right? But I always tell people, if something is worth doing, it's worth doing poorly. You know, like, I know so many people, if something's worth doing, do it the best that you absolutely can. But for so many people, especially when you're bringing in chronic health conditions and extreme fatigue, right? Chronic fatigue, and pain all over your body, to be able to be like, I'm going to go into the gym and push it as hard as I absolutely can, that's going to be like no, I'd rather just not go, right? And so just being able to say, I'm just going to show up. I'm going to show up today. I might do terribly. I might not be able to go super hard today, but I'm going to show up.
Exactly, yeah.
I'm sure that this is from someone famous, but I heard it from Three-Eyed Belton, I believe, who is probably someone that you're familiar with. But he told me, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great.
Yes.
Right?
Got to start somewhere.
I didn't start Muay Thai as a kid, right? It has not necessarily come supernaturally for me, but I will show up day after day after day. I will put in the time, even on the hard days.
I respect and admire that mentality.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's your kind of the bit about you and your past, right?
Yes.
So you've done 3.5 years of Muay Thai. How many fights have you done, or so far?
This will be my 5th sanctioned fight, and then I've had a couple of smokers exhibitions.
Cool. That's cool. And coming into this legendary fight promotions, Muay Thai Fight Night 24, how did you get in contact with them or find out about them?
Crew Brooke, who runs Legendary Fight Promotion, she contacted our coaches asking, if there was anybody with the right experience level and who could make the weight in 3 weeks. So essentially 2 weeks of training, because you don't want to work too hard that 3rd week, right? Yep. And I fit the bill. So yeah.
Okay, so speaking of that, 3 weeks notice. Throughout the year, right? You said you're always working out and getting yourself fit. Does it affect you having 3 weeks versus 6 weeks in your life?
Yes. I'm not too concerned about it this time around. I had some fights earlier this year where I was I'm hoping to be able to go with Team USA to Italy in the summer. And it can be hard for me to find fights at my size. I get a lot of women on weight loss journeys who I kind of fight them on their way through, right, into a lower weight class. And other than that, there's not really very many who are consistent in this weight class. And so I'm having to get up to a certain number of fights to be able to qualify, to be able to go to this summer. And so this last summer, I actually had torn a freak EDS thing. I tore one of my hamstring muscles halfway through in one spot, plus partway through up at the top attachment. And I was out. I couldn't exercise. They wouldn't allow me to do yoga or Muay Thai or anything on it for 8 weeks before I was allowed to start the rehab. And so I needed that next fight though as soon as I could. And so I had to start from scratch working on that cardio. Took the fight, managed to win. I was very nervous though because I just hadn't had that time to get the cardio. But since then, the fight was in December, but I started training for it about a month before that. And I just haven't lessened my training since then. And so really pushing that cardio, I had already started doing that all before we found out. I actually believe right now, this exact moment, in the best cardio shape I have ever been in my life.
Oh, nice. So the call was fate, you can say.
Yeah. If I hadn't pushed myself so hard to get ready for that first fight, that I didn't end up being where I wanted to be cardio-wise, I wouldn't be able to be considering a 5-round, a fight right now. So
what weight are you guys fighting at? What's the agreement now?
160 to 168.
Okay, 160 to 168.
So
okay.
Super middleweight, I believe.
And where are you going to be going in? What's your goal between that range of 60 to 68?
On the higher end.
Okay.
Yeah. That's another part of my health condition. If I try to cut water weight and dehydrate myself, I can't get any fluid to my brain, so I can't do large water cuts. Like some of these other people can. People out there doing a 30-pound weight cut. I walk around 170, and then I go down to naturally lose weight down to about 165.
I think that's a better way to go. It's a bit more healthy.
I've had great luck with it thus far.
Yeah.
So
for me, it's bizarre, right?
Stay stronger. I'm less likely to get sick with illnesses or whatever. I know not everybody agrees with that sentiment, but
yep, I get you. I have friends that do the 10, 15-pound weight cut. I don't know. For me, it's really hard to do because I can't starve like that. I just can't. But
especially as we get older.
Yeah.
Right? We don't bounce back like we did. It's hard to have a weigh-in even night before. when we're older and still be able to bounce back in time for the fight.
Yeah, and that's why I have a lot of respect for the fighters. They do all these things that are atypical, but it's tough, right? The fighter life is tough. So speaking of the fighters, right, in the fighter life, do you know much about Bety at all?
No, not really. I know that she's got more of a kickboxing background versus the traditional Muay Thai background. I know that she's quite a bit smaller than me, height-wise, and that she's fast.
Yep. So
that's what I've heard.
It's going to be probably fighting long, distancing for you, or getting in, and Bety fighting low and in is my guess. Is how it's going to kind of progress through the fight, right?
Yep.
In terms of strengths as a fighter, right? How would you describe your strengths as a fighter?
Absolutely my range. Yeah. I've got good long range weapons, but also I've been training some of the Dutch style kickboxing, which is that inside,
the
right?
Aggressiveness.
Learning to be safe on the inside. And so I'm also comfortable inside, and I'm comfortable in the clinch. So I think that my advantage is going to be my reach, but obviously she is going to be working her way in constantly. Which, to be honest, it's the only way I've really had to fight as far as fighting women. I've never fought a woman very close to my height. I think the closest she's been is 5'9", maybe. And so I've had a lot of practice at having smaller girls working their way inside.
So for Dutch style, right? I believe it's the stance is more like hands up, and you go in, right? So you're 6'1", she's shorter. I'm just asking. So in these situations, when your hands are up, does it expose your body shots a lot more, or do you have to do something to adjust for that?
No, my length is in my legs, on my torso, so I don't have a very hard time keeping my hands where they need to be here, while also it's not too much for me to be able to just drop an elbow without exposing my, I haven't had too much of an issue with that.
Right. Okay. So you don't know Bety, she doesn't really know you, but based in your head, right? How do you think, if you're going to take the win, how do you think it's going to happen, game plan wise? Without giving away too much, without giving away like the whole game plan.
Yeah. My range. I'm not only am I 6'1", I'm I'm a hypermobile yoga instructor. I can keep the face easily. Head kicks are easy. I love elbows. Elbows are my friend. I've got the long knees, right? I've got all these different tools to be able to pull in. I'm hoping for a head kick knockout. That would be my golden moment.
So that is the goal. Understood. Okay. 3 weeks left of the fight, right? You said you didn't want to focus on, hardcore lifting and all that stuff the last week. This is the last week, basically, coming up.
Next week will be the last. Yep, that will be.
So, what are you going to be doing between now and the 15th?
Well, I'm still in Hell Week right now. I have been training hard, going in early, staying late, coming in the mornings on my days off, training cardio. It'll be more of that. I've got a hard training session coming up tonight, a lot of leg conditioning. I always get a lot of leg conditioning because it's just always assumed that that's going to be a big target. So more of the same, just grinding, nose to the grindstone.
Yeah, so it's assumed that your legs would be a big target. Has that been the case, or has it not been the case?
It honestly depends. In my fights that I've had previously, it hasn't really, at least not that I've noticed. Granted, you don't feel a lot of the pain in the fight with the adrenaline and everything. But in my training, it's definitely been a big thing. My crew Kirsten, one of my mini crews, I have to give a huge shout out to all of my crews. Crew Kirsten is little and she is fierce. She's good. And so practicing with her and her just kind of eating that leg, yeah, definitely something that I haven't seen a lot in fights, but that I am well prepared for.
Mm. So I want to ask a couple more questions. We're kind of hitting the 30-minute mark, but I do want to ask one more question based on like dieting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because you have a certain condition, EDS.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you said diet was a big factor.
Oh, huge. Not even so much with the EDS, but for the POTS, the orthostatic, postural orthostatic tachycardia. Mm-hmm. Yeah. When you eat, the blood goes to your stomach, right? Mm-hmm. For everybody to help digest. Most people have enough blood volume to spare because their veins work correctly to push everything where it's supposed to be. I have chronically low blood pressure, sometimes as low as like 80/60. Once or twice it's been in the 70s, right?
Oh, that's really low.
Along with a super high heart rate because you get adrenaline, and when you get adrenaline, then your vessels dilate even more. Because for people like you, that would help you to get more blood flow, but for people like me, it makes it worse. Mm-hmm. And so learning what kind of foods trigger that, I have to eat pretty clean. I have to have super, super high sodium diet, but without a lot of the simple carbs. Simple carbs are one of the things that will just make me feel like I have to sleep for like 2 or 3 hours.
Like brown rice, simple carbs?
No, like white bread.
Like white bread. Okay, yeah.
Just
shoot it up.
Any sort of bread that you're gonna get if you go out to eat somewhere, for the most part, right? Yeah. Like fast food, any of that kind of stuff, it will trigger it like crazy. Mm-hmm. And I can barely stay upright. And then trying to train on that kind of stomach is virtually impossible. And so learning how to balance sodium through high fiber foods that digest slower, right? Those complex carbs that digest slower. High protein to keep my muscle mass. I cannot afford to lose muscle mass with my Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And then the hydration with a lot of electrolytes to keep that fluid volume up all the time. Finding out about it my whole life, before I found out about it, I thought I was just lazy because I was tired all the time. And I remember my son, my older son who's verbal, Mom, why do you just lay in bed all the time? And just feeling that like in my heart, like why don't you come play with us, and just feeling like such a terrible mother. And now knowing and being able to make all these lifestyle changes and these diet changes and these hydration changes, and I'm like, I can't believe this is how you guys have felt all this time. Right? Like to be able to take my kids and to go do those fun things with them and be there and read them stories and play games with them. And, it has been life-changing. Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. I want to ask one last question, and then I want to give you a chance to thank anybody and shout out anybody afterwards, okay? Mm-hmm. I'm a parent too. It seems like you have a lot on your plate, right? How do you balance all that together to allow yourself to have the time to work out hard every day?
Yeah.
And do everything else you do?
It's a lot. I also own my own business, and it's a successful business. And I work for that, and then I teach Muay Thai, and I teach yoga, and I train Muay Thai, and I have 2 special needs kids and a special education background, and I volunteer for my church, and I do all these things. And honestly, the way that I am successful is I am very, very blessed to have a very supportive husband who is a great father, and a gym that I can bring my kids to and let them kind of run around and play with the other kids. That very family friendly atmosphere. So some days I'll bring the kids with me. Other days my husband wants me to leave them home, and he fully supports my Muay Thai, and that this is my, you know, my passion, and it's where I have my friends, and it's where it's my second family, and he's incredibly supportive of that. And so when I'm training for fights and the fitness level is the time in the gym has to go up, he is understanding of that. There's definitely times where I have to take more time off to help support him and do the things that he wants to do. A lot of times through the summer, I take more time off of Muay Thai so that we can go do family activities and stuff like that. But yeah, as far as how I figure it all out that way, one, I love all of it. Everything I do, I love. There's none of it that I dread. And then two, having an awesome, supportive family.
Yeah. So what do you guys do for business mainly?
So I own, I mentioned earlier how you might hear preschoolers. I own my own preschool. I have a degree in early childhood education / early childhood special education. I used to be a special education teacher. I taught in an autism classroom, a low-functioning autism classroom before I had my children.
Wow. Okay.
And then because my license is blended, I can teach anything birth through third grade, general ed, or special ed. And when we moved here and had the space, I opened my own preschool.
So if people want to contact you for your services, how do they reach out to you? What's the best way?
You know, I put out every now and then an ad on Facebook, but I haven't even bothered doing a website because I haven't needed one. I registered January 1st for the following fall, and I'm usually filled up by 5 p.m. on January 1st. I do have a younger class where parents aren't quite ready to send their kids yet. That one always takes a little longer to fill up. But if there's anybody who is looking for a preschool in the Spokane area, it would be for fall 2026 because I'm almost full for 2025.
Oh, that's great.
Just reach out to me via social media.
Yeah, social media is kind of the key. Like I have a very heavy IT background, and a lot of people say like, oh, you need to have this, but really these days a YouTube page and Instagram is a website, right? So a website itself, people might not even go to because they're too lazy.
Yeah.
Like business cards and all that, even that is questionable for me because if someone wants to contact you and call you, they're gonna call you, whether or not
exactly
they have a business card.
I haven't needed any.
Yeah.
I not to toot my own horn, but I am good at it.
That's
so,
great.
I'm confident in that, and I specialize in behavioral disorders, and yeah,
that's cool.
Word of mouth has worked well enough for me so far.
Yeah, that's perfect. So I'm gonna see you in 2 weeks. Sorry, not 2 weeks. Week and a half ish kind of thing. I'll be there in the weigh-ins. I'll be there in the fight night. It's gonna be live streamed, but I'm gonna record it offline and do my coverage I normally do. I would love to have a post interview afterwards. I like to do it like during the day, but during the day there's so much people that sometimes I don't get to it. I'd love to have a follow-up call. I'd love to see how you're doing, things like that. Do some highlights and just get some feedback on what you thought about the fight and how it went, okay?
Right. Yeah.
I really appreciate you joining this call in your busy life and doing this interview, okay? I really thank you for that. So for the ending part, is there anyone you want to thank or shout out?
Yes. I already gave that shout out to my husband. He's my number one fan. Biggest shout out to him. But then absolutely my coaches, Crew Yai, JJ, John Johnson, for teaching me the foundations of that traditional Muay Thai. Training with Crew Pablo, that Dutch style and that footwork, and being able to stay tight on the inside has been just huge. And then Crew Adam, who calls me out on my bull crap and tells me for real, what things I need to hear and helps me work on them. And then Crew Kirsten, who has been that emotional. If I start to overthink, she helps me focus back in on those things and that emotional support there. And then my best friend, Crew Brienne, she's the one who got me into it. I saw her first fight, and she's been kind of my emotional support, just there for me on the hard days of training. And I honestly feel like I couldn't do it without all of them. So absolutely a huge shout out to Hominidai, the family atmosphere, and just the fact that they have become my family, and I'm very grateful for that place that they've created.
Yeah,
thank you, all of you.
That's amazing. It's great that everything's coming together. So definitely gonna see you in a week and a half. I'm gonna aim to get this posted either. I think I can get it done today, but if not, it'll be tomorrow.
Okay.
So it depends how things go in my day today, but I'll do an Instagram collaboration. It's gonna be a minute and a half. I'll post the full thing on YouTube, and if you want the footage, I can send it to you. It's not a big deal.
I would love it. Yeah.
I can send you I can send you the file, the horizontal and the vertical. Use it for your own purposes, your business, whatever you want. Okay.
Yep. That sounds great.
So
Thank
Elle,
you so much for this opportunity.
No problem, Elle. So I'm looking forward to meeting you and seeing the fight. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
It was great talking. See you later. Okay.
Thanks, Han. Bye.
Bye bye.